Hey everyone, and welcome back to ServiceNow Bytes, a channel where I break down ServiceNow product capabilities into small practical episodes. At Knowledge 2026, I ran a hands-on lab on BuildAgent. Within that lab, we built a complete ServiceNow app, including data model, logic, a workspace, and a ServiceNow portal with nothing, just prompts. Sounds interesting? Let me show you how. Let's orient quickly before we get into the demo. BuildAgent is ServiceNow AI development assistant. It lives inside ServiceNow Studio, and as of the Australia release, that's also the biggest change. Previously, it was tucked away in the ServiceNow IDE, which is primarily accessible to pro-code developers, very familiar with that environment. Now it's front and center into ServiceNow Studio, where every admin, every developer, every business analyst, and maybe even citizen developers can use it straight in the platform. BuildAgent can create more than 30 native ServiceNow artifacts from a single conversation, from data model to flows to business rules to portals, workspaces, client scripts, you name it, everything built natively on the ServiceNow way. The interaction model is very simple. It follows a 3-step loop. You prompt, you describe what you want in plain language. BuildAgent will then plan, so it shows you exactly what it intends to create before touching anything. And once you approve, it starts building. The plan step is actually the most important one I want to point out in that video. Don't skip it. Read it. This is your chance to catch anything that will happen to your ServiceNow instance before it lands into the instance. All right? Let's build something together. Now, as for the lab scenario, I came up with this one. It's the year 2157. We are living on the first permanent colony on Mars called RS4. 847 settlers are living here in pressurized habitats. We got hydroponic lettuce and obviously an espresso machine to keep everyone going. With the latest supply rocket arriving from Earth, we not only received our oxygen canisters and freeze-dried meals to keep us from starving, there was also a container with 50,000 Blu-ray discs, a handwritten sign of Blockbuster, and a lovely note, "You're welcome." Now what we need is an app to support the Blockbuster scheme. That's us. This app will be called the Red Planet Rewind. Let's go. The first exercise is called Lights, and the job is straightforward. We need to get the catalog up and running. So let's start by creating the application. So BuildAgent has understood and is creating the app shell for us. Next, we start building out the data model with the movie table, including fields like title, release year, genre, runtime, rating, condition, and so forth. Everything specified in one prompt. Now this is where I want you to watch the plan phase. BuildAgent details out all the steps it wants to do and is waiting for your approval. If it doesn't look right, refine it, discuss it with BuildAgent, add information so BuildAgent knows what you want to build. Once you're happy, then approve. Now, after every turn, BuildAgent will provide a summary of what it did, why it did that, and all that information will actually be stored in ServiceNow, so you can go back to that at any point in time. We'll see that later. Now with the movie table built, let's move on. We also want to store more information about the movies, like all the actors in that movie. For this one, we'll have another prompt asking for a table of persons and a many relationship between movies and persons to track the cast. Awesome, that has completed, and we have the data model now being ready to get some data in. But instead of manually typing in data, I will just ask BuildAgent to generate some sample records that we can use later through the demo. Now, as you might have seen, I didn't ask for any particular movies, but BuildAgent came up with some really good candidates, like The Martian, Alien, Interstellar, well fitting for our colony. Now for the last part of this exercise, we need some workspace for people to work on. Let's ask BuildAgent to create one. That's it. With just 5 prompts, BuildAgent actually built a complete application with a data model, relationships, and a working workspace. At any point in time, you can actually use the ServiceNow Studio, dive into your application, and see all the different artifacts that have already been built. You can continue on them, modify them as you would with any other manually created artifacts. Now let's check that workspace. Here we are on the initial dashboard. And bear in mind, we didn't tell BuildAgent anything what it should put on that dashboard. So that was all by assumption right now. The more precise you are with the prompts that you give BuildAgent, the better your result will be. But we can see the movies by group by genre or group by condition. You can drill into the movies, get the list of all the seed records that we've created, and maybe even open one of these records like The Martian. You can see the movie cast of The Martian, and it looks like there's a little issue on the detail screen with the form not loading. That's a perfect time to go back to BuildAgent and tell him, hey, that form is not working. This part of the lab took roughly 15 minutes on site in Vegas. And as you've seen, most time was actually spent waiting on BuildAgent doing the things rather than us working. And that's great. Let's move on to the second part. Now, second part of the exercise is called camera. This is where BuildAgent moves beyond data modeling into actual platform behavior. With the first prompt, we asked BuildAgent to add a UI policy on the form to make the synopsis field mandatory whenever the condition is set to damaged. This helps our staff to document the nature of a damage before saving a record. Awesome. With that done, let's add one more logic. We want to have a separate display field that combines the title of the movie plus the year it was shot or released. Great, this has been completed. For the last prompt in this exercise, I want to watch a bit more closely what we do. We're talking about the damaged disk protocol where I ask BuildAgent to create a flow. Now this flow is to be triggered every time a disk is damaged and should send out a notification to our administrative team to check the disk and maybe replace it. All right, build install completed. Let's validate a few things. Let's move over to the workspace once more. So here we have the new movie details screen with the display title on the top, finally concatenated as we wanted it. And let's see what happens if we change the condition to damaged. You can see the synopsis becomes the asterisk being a mandatory field, so we need to enter something here. And once we save that record, it should trigger our flow. And here we are, we can see the email being generated, damaged disk reported, The Martian 2025. So we put the title in there. If you want to preview, that's the email being sent out. Good job. Now on to exercise 3, call action. And this is big show time. By now you have already seen how BuildAgent handles data modeling. Same as in exercise 1, we would add a member table, a rental table, some related lists, form details, and so forth. You have seen that before, so I won't walk through that again. What I do want to show you is the service portal prompt, because that is where it gets really interesting. Here we go. One prompt, no detailed design instructions, no layout specifications. I intentionally kept that light, but that's something I want to highlight. BuildAgent is capable of generating much more polished portals than what it gives you with this prompt. You can add design guidelines, color schemes, layout preferences, etc. But let's see what it generates for that one on the PDI. Build the install is complete. Let's have a look on our new portal. Here we go, a nice and shiny portal, freshly built by BuildAgent. Yes, the theme and the colors are maybe not great, but we didn't tell BuildAgent what we actually wanted to. But we can use the portal. For example, we can search for Alien movie and we'll find the portal. It shows my rentals. Obviously there is none yet. So it's fully working portal with just one prompt. Isn't that amazing? Now, we want to be perfectly honest in this. BuildAgent will not get it right every time the first time, right? It's an iterative approach. It's an agent, it's a chat, so you can continue, you can extend it. I usually say BuildAgent is like my junior developer at my side, very familiar with ServiceNow, but maybe not so great sometimes with architecture and decision. So I need to help him there, say, hey, use a flow, use a business rule, design a theme like that. So the more precise I am with what I tell BuildAgent, the better the result will be. With that, we are at the end of the video. There are 3 things I want you to take away from this. 1, BuildAgent is now in ServiceNow Studio. As of the Australia release, if you have a PDI, you can try this today. Or if you are running Australia already, no need to wait for anything. Second, the plan is not a formality. Every time BuildAgent generates a plan, read it before you confirm. That's your chance to catch a misinterpretation before it lands in your app. Make it a habit from your first prompt on. And third, treat every output as a draft. BuildAgent is powerful, but it's probabilistic. It will occasionally make a different decision than you'd expect, or it interprets your prompt slightly different. That's not a failure. That's AI. That's the workflow. Read what it builds, decide if it's the right thing to do, and iterate. Developers who get the most out of BuildAgent are the ones who treat it as a conversation, not a command line. And one more thing before you go, this is all available on a PDI right now. Every personal developer instance comes ready with BuildAgent loaded and allows you 25 prompts to test and explore. More than enough to follow along in this lab or experiment with some other scenarios that you have in your mind. The lab guide to what I did is down in the description below. Prompts are all in there if you just want to follow along. Drop a comment below if you have been experimenting with BuildAgent and your own projects. I'm genuinely curious of what you are building and what's not working yet. Subscribe to my Now Bytes for more practitioner level ServiceNow content. No fluff, just platform. See you in the next one.